So I was scrolling through the list of removed Elden Ring items the other day, and one caught my eye. This one. It's something that looks like a headless effigy. This is Miranda, and here is everything you need to know about the Flower Crucible, the Blighted Bloom, and who the Maiden Miranda is. I don't want to make any assumptions, but potentially not all of you are the sort to maybe be interested in flowers, but I do know what you are into. Games. Thank you to today's sponsor of this video, Opera GX, the internet browser made for gamers. Opera GX offers full customization of how you want the thing that you stare at all day to suit you. One of the easiest ways to pick your skin is with GX mods. Browse for many already existing templates in the store, and with one click, you've got a brand new transmog. For example, this Dark Souls one changes the theme and colour of the browser to match the bonfire, ambient background music, animated background, customised keyboard sounds, and even fitting noises when you open and close a tab. All of these settings can be toggled as you please. Disabling the mod and switching to another one is super easy from the menu in the sidebar. They have so many to choose from in the store. Opera GX can now facilitate AI-powered tools like prompts that can help you save time with mundane tasks like summarising an article or rewording text. Simply highlight what you want and use the prompts to explain it to you in Elden Ring terms. If you're into functions like ChatSonic, Aria, and ChatGPT, you can also turn these on for easy access in the sidebar. And my favourite feature is how streamlined watching videos is. Say you're watching something on your PC and you start to feel a bit sleepy, hit the continue watching on mobile button, and by scanning the QR code, the video will now pick up right where you left off on your phone so that you can keep watching your 10-hour sleep aid compilation in bed. Download Opera GX for free today by using my dedicated link in the description or the pinned comment below. Thank you so much, Opera GX, for working with me again. I really appreciate it. Now let's get back to the lore. Imagine yourself in the Waypoint ruins in Limgrave. You stumble upon a cramped area as you navigate the stone ruins, coming face to face with some aggressive greenery. But these are no ordinary plants. These are Miranda sprouts, their vibrant green leaves and delicate petals belying their deadly nature. These are mobile, man-eating plants, and these are just the regular size. There are also giant Miranda sprouts, who are toweringly large and able to conjure piercing light from the sky. Before we understand why that is, what exactly is the Miranda flower based on? I don't think one particular flower is a one-to-one replica of the Miranda flower. I believe inspiration has been drawn from various other plants to combine into this. So we're going to break down the Miranda flower's design, starting from the top and discussing the lore as we go. It has elongated stamens that are reminiscent of a lily. The Miranda flower could also draw inspiration from the hibiscus, with its long tube-like stamen and lobed petals, a fusion of these two flowers. Funnily enough, if you type Miranda flower into Google, you will get the Miranda rose suggested, which has some similarities in colour, such as pink and yellow petals, which match the ruffled layers of the Miranda flower. The underneath and base of this plant have some really interesting textures, almost like a pincushion. The Drosera plant most likely inspired this. These beads on the surface are a glue-like substance that the plant secretes called mucilage. This explains why the Droseras are also known as sun dews. It looks like the dew that forms in the morning as the sun rises. But don't let its delicate appearance fool you. Its sticky mucilage traps unsuspecting insects and dissolves them in digestive juices, consuming them for nutrients. This aligns with the game's depiction of the Miranda sprouts as carnivorous blossoms that feed upon human flesh. Even the smallest of Miranda plants in the game is much larger than the average Drosera, and so is its appetite. It's unsatisfied with just tiny bugs, instead craving the taste of beasts and men. The final component of the Miranda flower is its aura, its poisonous spray that surrounds it. All I can really think of is the corpse flower, a massive real-world plant that emits such a strong scent when it blooms that people describe it as the scent of rotting flesh. This would make sense with the Miranda flowers as they feast on people. No wonder they radiate that smell as their prey is dissolving on their surface. In the game, the Miranda flowers use this poisonous spray as a defense mechanism, pumping out these spores when you get too close. I tried to find an example of a real-life flower that gives off a poisonous mist, but I couldn't really find anything close. For the most part, there are a lot of dangerous toxic plants out there, but you'll be fine as long as you don't eat them or their fruit. What I did notice that all these deadly plants have in common is their beauty, how inviting and lush, how unique and rare their bloom is. fruit that stops your heart, trees that give shelter but rain down acid-like sap, jewel-like seeds that punish you if you wear them, and vegetables that cause seizures, hallucinations, the collapse of the lungs, and your brain to hemorrhage. The Miranda flower's distinctive design and deadly allure is a prime example of this. Flora can be as beautiful as it is fatal. All these measures and chemical defences are for the plant's protection and survival at any cost. Like these deadly plants, the Miranda flower has that same captivating beauty to it. Interestingly, there are actually 4 subtypes of Miranda flower: the standard poison-inflicting ones we discussed so far, a magical variant that launches projectiles akin to glintstones, and then a rotten version that produces clouds of scarlet rot, and finally the strangest, the frenzied Miranda flower. This one spreads pollen that accrues madness if you stand in it. One could argue that these flowers have different types because they have adapted or absorbed the environments in which they grow. For example, the magic Miranda flowers only grow in Liurnia, an environment covered in glintstone rocks. These flowers even have a chance of dropping crude magic crystals, suggesting that the flowers siphoned power from them, giving them these minor but magical moves. The rotten ones grow in Koehlers, Michaelis Haligtree, and the Shaded Castle, all places associated with rot. And finally, the frenzy ones grow not far from the village of Frenzied Flame. Not even the plants are spared from its madness. There are also 2 boss variations of the giant Miranda sprout. One is found in quite a cramped area deep underground in the Tombswood Cave. This one isn't remarkably different from the standard giant Miranda sprout, apart from the larger health pool. What is different is that after defeating this boss, you can notice a unique flower model independent of the Miranda boss model. It's left behind, and it actually looks like the Miranda flower without the mobile man-eating component. Perhaps this is how the flowers start, growing into more giant, voracious beings over time. When looking up, a hole in the cave ceiling lets in the light. However, upon inspecting this hole closer, it's not just some mere skylight. By using a free cam, you can see that the ocean is directly above this hole. We will suspend our belief that the water would not instantly flood this boss room, but I did find it a cool detail and actually cropped up more times than just this instance. Wherever there are Miranda flowers inside, there is usually a gap in the ceiling, perhaps to allow photosynthesis, or a move we will talk about later in this video. The other boss variant comes in the form of Miranda, the Blighted Bloom. Now this model is unique. Found in the Perfumers Grotto Cave, this is a duo fight. Without context, you might think that this is a strange pairing, an omen killer and a flower, but there is some story here. Let's start with exploring the grotto. As its name suggests, this is a dwelling place for perfumers, and in times past, the role of a perfumer was much respected, a blessed apothecary in the eyes of many, but after entering the battlefields of the Shattering, they performed no such role, trading their aromatics for poisons and explosives. Perfumers once collected herbs and spices for healing and treatment, but their offensive potential was prioritized when drafted for war. As such, the Miranda flowers became a desirable target for resources for the perfumers, specifically the pollen. Throughout history, perfumers have prized this extremely fragrant form of Miranda pollen, not yet scattered into the air. Miranda pollen can be used to craft 2 different perfumer concoctions: Spark Aromatic, which casts a wide arc of fire in front of the user, and Poison Spray Mist, a forbidden art that allows one to spew poison from their mouth. These 2 offensive consumables may explain why the perfumers have flocked to this grotto to harvest the pollen from the flowers growing here. There are gardens known only to the perfumers, whether hidden on the fringes of the highlands or obscured by shadows inside caves. The flowers blossom in secret, waiting to impart their scent. But what does this have to do with the omen killer in the grotto? Well, the connection between these savage hunters and the flowers is probably because of one named figure called Rollo. And Rollo was a perfumer, spirit of Rollo, known as the first omen killer. Once a famous perfumer, Rollo imbibed a physic to rid himself of emotion, thus enabling him to enact his nightmarish labour, hunting omen. He used his expertise in crafting potions to create a brew that would make him the perfect hunter, no longer burdened with guilt, empathy, or concern. just a desire for the blood of the poor omens. He was very good at what he did, so much so that it became an infamous figure which spawned admirers and copycats. It's unclear if these omen killers were also previously perfumers. Still, they definitely took inspiration from his attire. They likely practiced the art of perfumery, which may explain why this omen killer is in the perfumer's grotto, attempting to harvest from the flowers. But one more thing to note is the uniqueness of this Miranda flower's appearance and name, Blighted Bloom. What happened to this flower? Are we witnessing a new subspecies developing in this cave? Or has it been afflicted by improper means, an amateur perfumer playing God, tampering where they shouldn't? As I said, are these plants affected by the environments in which they grow, adapting to get by or fit in? Or have they evolved? I've spoken about the Crucible many times on this channel because it's a fascinating concept. The Crucible of life, or the primordial crucible all refer to the earliest form of the Erd tree. That's what primordial means, something that has existed since the beginning of the world or the universe. The Erd tree used to be much more different than how we know it today. It was a primal vital font of life energy. Being born during this time was referred to as having made contact with the Crucible, an example of which is allegedly the misbegotten. Their features like scales, feathers, and bony knots used to be signifiers of the divine, but now are considered a sign of less evolved and impure beings. But this has to do with Miranda flowers because today's main item in question has a description that mentions the Crucible. Specifically, someone called Miranda, Maiden of the Flower Crucible. So a couple of things are revealed in this sentence. First, the Flower Crucible. This seems to be a particular subcategory of the Crucible. As I said, there were a couple of ways of referring to it as such, but they all kind of follow the same theme along the lines of ancient life energy. The Flower Crucible is specific and doesn't encompass anything we've really seen before. This may be why the concept was scrapped from the release version of the game. They wanted to keep the Crucible as this specific concept and not introduce this whole niche of flowers. However, this description also mentions a maiden named Miranda, who is dedicated to the Flower Crucible, hence where the flowers got their name. Now, we know a lot about finger maidens. Twin maidens, night maidens, kindling maidens, and maidens of the three fingers also all exist. In the context of Elden Ring, the word maiden is used as a title to denote their role, but it also has a double entendre to refer to a young woman. The term maiden and a specific noun, like finger, denote who or what this individual serves. So if we use that logic on Miranda, she was the maiden of the Flower Crucible. This is exciting because we know a lot of beings connected to the Crucible, like the misbegotten, Crucible Knights, etc., but not really that many named individuals. The description of the removed item continues. The sentence in its entirety reads, Miranda, Maiden of the Flower Crucible, is said to have been the very first of this breed. Now we get more information here. First of this breed implies that Miranda was the original maiden, the prototype, which presumably spawned more Flower Crucible maidens. Breed is also a really interesting word choice here. You don't really use it to refer to other humans, more so for domesticated species of animals. It's a biological term implying that Miranda was more of a plant-like being than a human, despite the humanoid form depicted in the item's artwork. This reminds me of a really cool natural phenomenon where some plants or flowers have a component to their structure that mimics another living being. For example, the bee orchid has a protruding petal resembling a female bee sitting on the flower. Male bees will then attempt to mate with what they think is a female, resulting in them pollinating the orchid instead. Things like this really make me in awe of the clever ways that organisms adapt and survive. But to relate this to Miranda, her plant body likely mimicked that of the female form to entice humans, luring them in close enough to then feed on them. After all, the statuette is described as a flower that preys on humans. So what was this item meant to do if it was implemented in the game? Uses FP to cool down a deluge of light. Based on this description, we could mimic that move that the giant Miranda flowers charge up, allowing us to smite enemies with pillars of light. Interestingly, in 2022, they showcased this ability in the base game's launch trailer. You can see a character wearing the blue version of the noble's robe starting to cast a move, where lots of glittering white sparks rise up. Just like the Miranda flowers, it's the tell that they're about to use this move. However, this was never made into a usable item in the current version of the game. But interestingly, in the DLC gameplay trailer we just got, we see that exact fit, the noble set with the navy robe and this same character casting yet another new move. Has very similar vibes, a long cast time, white and pink themed, this time with butterflies. So hopefully this move does make it into the DLC, but potentially they might restore the Miranda's prayer item. There is a possibility. It's quite a curious move for a plant to have though. It's holy in nature. After all, the item is called a prayer. It allegedly depicts Miranda posed in prayer, however, it's a little unclear as the plant's anatomy is quite abstract. There is a suggestion that the plants call on something religious or divine. Makes you think of the Erd tree or Crucible. This connection is supported by the item that the solo boss Miranda drops, a Viridian amber medallion. The Erd tree's old sap becomes amber, treasured as the most precious of jewels in the age of Godfrey, the first Elden Lord. A primordial life energy resides inside. Once again, a reference to the primordial. This light could be harnessed from the Erd tree, and although Miranda's prayer is not available for us in the game currently, there is a practically identical move used by an NPC, specifically the Melina summon for the Morgott boss fight. Melina will appear to use the same casting animation style as the NPC in the trailer, followed by pillars of light striking down, just like the Miranda flowers. The only difference is that the colour is different. Instead of white and silver, it appears yellowy gold, like the Erd tree. This is further reinforced by Melina's use of another exclusive ability, summoning a mini Erd tree that provides an AoE heal to anyone near it. This is also an unobtainable spell for us, but there is a connection between this light pillar, the Miranda flowers, and the Erd tree in whatever state. One final point I would like to raise is the connection between flowers and the Erd tree, which comes in the form of Guardians. These enemies have two variations. One type appears to have gnarled roots growing from their back, and the other is much more lush, full blooming flowers sprouting from these roots. It is said that the blood red flowers blooming on their back mark the senescence of their ancient pact. Perhaps the Guardians are part tree already. As their name would suggest, the Guardians are tasked with guarding the Erd trees. They are so dedicated to this cause that they have begun an almost symbiotic relationship with the tree. Although these flowers are red and described as the blossom from a tree specifically, there is some similarity between the Guardians and the Miranda flowers. When the Guardians attack, they also give out puffs of poisonous mist. And there are levels of transforming into a plant. Does make me wonder if this is what happened to Miranda. Suppose she was a faithful human being through dedication to the Flower Crucible. In that case, I wonder if she was rewarded by slowly turning into a particular type of flower. That's why it looks half human, half flower, thus giving it its name. The figurine has some swirl-like markings on its body, and when I was flicking through the Elden Ring art book, they reminded me of the same markings as the ones on the demi-human queen's body. As far as I can tell, these have no documented significance, but interestingly, the normal demi-humans don't have these on their body, implying that these markings are reserved for those of higher status, as in their queen. If this is true, it makes sense for Miranda to have these as well, as she was crucial to the Flower Crucible. All in all, Miranda is a mysterious character who gave me a newfound appreciation for the flora in Elden Ring, and I also feel like we get a hint of her personality, as in the Miranda Sprout Ash's description, the last line I can just hear in her voice.
Do take care of the little darlings.
You made it this far, thank you so much for watching my video. I know it was kind of a different topic talking about flowers, but some of these removed items just get me so inspired, and I'd be really curious to see if any of them do get restored in the DLC that's coming to us really, really soon. I also wanted to shout out the amazing thumbnail art for today's video. This was done by Mishka. I had so much fun collaborating with them about what possibly Miranda would have looked like. Please go follow them on Twitter, their handle is OctoMishka. Their art is super lovely and cute. A special thank you to you who's watching this video and also my channel members and patrons.